Along a forgotten stretch of Old Route 6, somewhere between the arid desert town of Mesa Falls and the forested hills of Riverview, stood an aging gas station that had somehow avoided complete abandonment. Time had not been kind to it. The red paint on the building had faded to a dusty rust. The windows were covered in grime, and the roof sagged just slightly in the middle, like a tired old man trying to stand tall. The only light came from a flickering sign that simply read "Gas," its neon tubes buzzing like flies. The station had 4 pumps, but only one still worked. Oddly, it was pump number 1. The others, especially pump number 4, hadn't functioned in over a decade. Pump 4 stood crooked, its digital display eternally stuck at $6.66. Someone had spray painted an X across it years ago, and the area around it was marked with faded yellow caution tape. Yet every night at dusk, the bulb above that pump would flicker on, without fail, casting an eerie white glow on the cracked concrete below. Locals said the station should have shut down long ago, but the old man who owned it, Richard Malloy, refused. He lived in a rusted-out RV parked behind the station, barely made any sales and rarely spoke. People often speculated about why he kept the place open. Some said he was too stubborn to let go. Others whispered about things he'd seen, things he'd never spoken of since the accident in 1998. Back then, the station was still in full operation. One summer night, a family of 5 on a road trip stopped by for gas. The youngest, a girl no older than 7, wandered off while her parents were distracted. Moments later, there was a scream. The family found her collapsed by pump 4, unconscious and bleeding from the nose. She never woke up. The coroner ruled it as sudden cardiac arrest, but the case never sat right with anyone. Richard was the only witness that night, and after that incident, he disconnected pump 4 officially. But as the years passed, strange things started happening. Security footage, grainy and unstable, would show pump 4 powering on by itself around 3:17 a.m. A dense fog would roll in, despite the dry climate and clear skies. The fog never extended past the station lot. It hung like a curtain, enclosing the space in a cold, suffocating stillness. Then came the car. It was always the same, a dark blue 1967 Chrysler Newport. No plates, the body immaculate but outdated. The vehicle would glide in silently and come to a stop at pump 4. The driver was never visible, not in the footage, not by eyewitnesses, not even when people stood and stared at it directly. The car simply existed. No engine noise, no headlights, just presence. Then the impossible would happen. The pump would lift its handle and slot itself into the tank. The price meter would begin to tick, gallons of fuel seemingly dispensed, even though the underground tanks were dry. Once it reached exactly 13.00 gallons, it would stop. The handle would retract, the fog would slowly recede, and the car would vanish. Not drive away, vanish. This occurred regularly for years. No one could explain it. Mechanics and paranormal investigators came and left, either dismissive or unsettled. One group who tried to camp overnight near the pump found their tent shredded, their cameras fried, and their watches all frozen at 3:17 a.m. They left without a word. Richard, over time, began changing. He boarded up the convenience store's side entrance, bolted the bathroom shut, and painted the windows black. He became increasingly paranoid, muttering to himself, recording weather logs and moon phases obsessively. He kept a shotgun by the register but never used it. He told a passing trucker once that something beneath the station breathes when the car comes. After he passed away in his sleep, the new owners, some regional fuel company, bought the land for next to nothing. They sent in a crew to clean up, replace the signage, and modernize the pumps. But when they tried to remove Pump 4, the concrete beneath it cracked. Workers claimed the ground felt hollow and that digging deeper produced the stench of rot. One worker, a man named Kevin, found an access hatch below the pump's platform. It hadn't appeared on any blueprints. He climbed down and never came back up. When rescue crews arrived, the hatch was sealed shut again. Concrete, solid and seamless. No evidence it had ever opened. Kevin was never found. The company quietly abandoned the renovation. The station still stands, forgotten and crumbling. Pump 4 still lights up every night, still ticks at 3:17 a.m. And occasionally, if you drive by with your radio on, you might hear a burst of static, followed by a voice barely audible, whispering, 13 gallons, again. There was a gas station perched between the rolling hills of western Montana and a seemingly endless stretch of prairie. It served as the lone beacon for miles, a necessary stop before heading deeper into the isolated northern wilderness. The building was squat and functional, metal siding, a convenience store with 2 fridges, and just 2 pumps out front. Locals called it the halfway station, not because it was halfway to anywhere, but because travelers often described a strange sensation upon entering, as if they were no longer fully in one place or another. The land around the station was unusually still. No wind, no wildlife, no clouds. Just sky and dirt and a sun that always seemed a little too low on the horizon, even at midday. The station didn't show up on GPS. If you tried to pin it, the map would shift your location several miles east. No one ever saw it being stocked or restocked, yet the fridges were always half full. The clerk, if there was one, never spoke, only stared. Travelers often reported mechanical glitches near the pumps, radio static, phones restarting. Some said their watches would reset to midnight. One trucker said his windshield wipers turned on by themselves even though his truck was drying off. But most chilling were the stories of the pump's digital screen. It looked normal during the day, but if you stopped between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the screen would display fragments of text, not errors, not code, messages. They started as random symbols, glitches seemingly, then came full words, dig, closer, behind you, coordinates. Occasionally the screen would flash with bursts of static, short, sharp bursts like a warning siren no one could hear. And then, the worst message, a list of dates and locations. Some were decades old, others just days in the future. When cross-referenced, those dates matched police reports, missing persons, strange disappearances, car crashes into empty ravines where no roads had ever been. One man claimed the pump screen showed a date that hadn't happened yet, just 2 days away, and the words, "You won't leave." He drove off in a panic but found himself looping back to the same gas station 30 minutes later, even though he drove straight west. When he got out of the car, the pump was already running. His tank wasn't open. After that night, no one saw him again. The gas station remains operational. No employees are listed in the regional utility records. Its power is drawn from an unknown grid. Investigators sent to the site report severe disorientation, intense headaches, and sudden memory loss. Some say the gas station doesn't just exist in one place, that it shifts, appearing on lonely highways just long enough to catch those who are vulnerable, And when it finds someone it likes, it speaks to them through static and code. No one has ever removed one of those pumps. A demolition crew once tried. Their bulldozer stalled, and their radios filled with what sounded like a woman humming a lullaby over and over until they abandoned the site. The gas station looked newly built. Gleaming white walls, polished tiles, LED lights. A corporate chain, nothing unique. On the surface, it was just another outpost off Interstate 27, set on a wide stretch of empty desert, shiny and soulless. A place to stretch your legs and fill your tank before driving another 200 miles of nothing. But beneath the fluorescent brightness was a strange discomfort no one could name. Patrons complained of a cold draft near the beverage cooler. Others said they smelled soil or mold, though the store was spotless. Animals refused to enter the parking lot. Stray dogs would stop at the edge of the pavement and whine, tails tucked, backs arched. It wasn't until the maintenance team arrived for routine checks that the problems began. One of them, Jake, noticed discrepancies in the building plans. There was a sub-level basement listed in the digital blueprint, but no access door, no elevator, and no stairs. The original contractor had marked the section as closed vault, sealed. When they asked the corporate office about it, they received no response. Emails were bounced, phone numbers disconnected. Curious, Jake pried open a panel behind the janitor's closet and discovered a latch buried beneath wiring. Beneath it, a hidden hatch, metal, rusted, and heavy. He called it in, but no one came to check. That night he returned alone and opened it. The staircase below was narrow and spiraled, carved into rough stone. As he descended, he heard whispers. Not voices exactly, but the impression of voices. The air turned thick, humid. He found himself in a massive underground chamber, the walls made of packed earth and exposed bone. Human bone. Coffins lined the walls, stacked like shelves. Some had dates, 1803, 1789. Some were unmarked. In the center of the room was a structure made of stone and teeth, a crude altar, and above it, something pulsed in the soil, like a heartbeat made of dirt and decay. Jake tried to flee but lost all sense of direction. The stairs were gone. The walls were shifting. A darkness not made of shadow crept in from the corners, curling like smoke, like it was alive. When the morning shift arrived, Jake was found in the janitor's closet, curled into a ball, eyes wide and unmoving. His skin was cold, and his mouth was full of soil. He never spoke again. After that, the hatch was sealed. New management was brought in. No mention of the basement was allowed in company memos. But strange things persisted. Customers would glance toward the coffee machine and pause, staring as if something had moved just out of frame. Security footage would skip, always from 3 a.m. to 3:23 a.m. Staff would report the ground humming softly beneath their feet late at night, like something large breathing beneath the floor. Then came the dreams. One by one, employees reported vivid nightmares of standing in an open field under a black sky, with the gas station behind them and a massive hand rising slowly from the earth beneath. In the dream, they could never move, never scream, just watch. Some quit, others went missing, but the gas station remains open, always open, clean, bright, welcoming, and the altar still breathes.